There is a kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. Not the heaviness in your limbs after a long day's work, but something deeper, a fatigue that begins the moment your eyes open, a quiet emptiness that no one else can see, but you carry it like a second skin. You didn't run a marathon, you didn't face a battlefield, and yet, before your feet even touch the floor, you already feel depleted, not from movement, but from fragmentation. Because while your body rested, your mind never did. It was already juggling what you forgot, who you've let down, the weight of unread messages and unfinished tasks. 1,000 invisible expectations press against your soul. Expectations you never asked for, but silently agreed to. And the strangest part, none of it feels like yours. You're walking through a life crowded with noise that doesn't belong to you, tasks that don't align with your values, conversations that leave you emptier, responsibilities inherited from a world that confuses urgency with importance. Somewhere along the way, you started living outward, not inward, performing instead of being, responding instead of feeling, reacting instead of choosing. You started moving through life like a shadow of yourself, present, but not really here. We say we're tired, but tired isn't the right word. We're not tired from doing too much. We're tired from doing too little of what actually matters. We're not drained by activity. We're drained by the absence of meaning. This is not burnout. This is spiritual starvation. This is what happens when your soul is forced to survive on the crumbs of obligation, while it quietly aches for the feast of purpose. And no, your energy didn't just disappear. It was spent, traded away in small, silent transactions, in the half-hearted yes you gave to avoid guilt, in the scroll that numbed your boredom but stole your clarity, in the self-imposed pressure to be more, fix more, prove more, even when you had nothing left to give. This is how life breaks you, not all at once, but piece by piece, not in explosions, but in erosion. You were never meant to live this fragmented. You are not meant to be scattered across timelines, to-do lists, and people who never ask how you're really doing. You were built for presence, for depth, for stillness. But somewhere along the way, you began treating your attention as if it were infinite, as if you could give and give without consequence, as if you could abandon yourself daily and still expect to feel whole. But attention is not infinite. It is sacred. It is the soul's currency. What you give it to, you give your life to. What you focus on grows. And when your focus is stolen, so is your clarity, so is your peace, so is your ability to listen to the quiet voice within that remembers who you really are. You don't need more time. You don't need another productivity hack. You need honesty, the kind of honesty that burns, the kind that forces you to ask, what am I giving my time to that gives me nothing in return? And the answers, they're not easy. Because sometimes the thing draining you isn't the world, it's you. It's the voice in your head that tells you you're always behind, that you're only valuable when you're producing, that rest is weakness, that slowness is failure. But that voice isn't truth, it's programming, an echo of the systems you grew up in, a reflection of fears that were never yours to begin with. You are not broken, you are not behind. You are simply too far from yourself, and that's why it hurts. Because somewhere inside, you still remember. You remember what it felt like to be whole, to be present, to move through the day with intention instead of obligation. You remember the version of you that didn't run on fear or guilt, but on alignment and love. And the soul always remembers, even when the mind forgets. So no, you don't need to push harder. You need to return, back to yourself, back to what matters. Back to what feeds you, because the real path forward isn't about adding more, it's about removing what never belonged, and that's where your life begins again, in subtraction, in stillness, in truth. We live in a world that confuses speed with progress and noise with value, a world that rewards urgency, not meaning, reactivity, not presence. You're expected to be available before you're awake, to respond before you've reflected, to keep up, no matter the cost. And so, without even realizing it, you start drifting, not in some dramatic way, but slowly, quietly. You begin living one task to the next, one notification to the next, as if they were beads on a string you didn't choose to wear. And the more you keep moving, the more something inside you starts to fade, the stillness, the aliveness, the clarity, until one day you look around, your calendar full, your inbox full, your mind full, and you ask yourself, when did I stop feeling alive in my own life? But here's the grace of it all. You can return. No, not to some past version of yourself, but to something older than that, something sacred. You can return to the place inside you that was never impressed by how much you accomplished in a day, the part of you that doesn't care about numbers, likes, or keeping up, the part that simply wants to be here, fully, honestly, quietly. But you don't return by doing more. You return by doing less of what dims your light, less explaining, less pleasing, less performing for people who were never really listening. You stop watering dead plants. You stop editing your soul to make other people comfortable. You stop believing that peace is something you'll earn once everything settles down. Because here's the deeper truth. The life you're meant to live doesn't begin when things calm down. It begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself. And that moment can be now. Presence isn't some distant, mystical state found on mountaintops or in silent retreats. It's here. It's what remains when you remove the noise. It's what's left after subtraction, after letting go of what no longer fits. The friend who only reaches for you when they need something. The voice in your head that says you must earn rest. The identity you wear just to feel accepted. Let them go. Your soul cannot thrive in a life built to please everyone else. Your truth cannot speak if your mouth is always explaining, and your rhythm cannot be found if you're always marching to someone else's drum. You don't need more energy. You're not missing discipline. What you need is to untangle the quiet places where you've been leaking your life, from all the little yeses you whispered when your body meant no, from the times you smiled when you wanted to scream, from the way you shrink your voice, your desires, your boundaries, just to be easier to love. But that's not peace. That's performance. And every time you shapeshift to fit someone else's rhythm, you lose a piece of your own song. You move further from the life that was written only for you. When you are content to simply be yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you. Lao Tzu. There is a quiet kind of courage in saying no. No to what drains you. No to the roles you were never meant to play. No to the noise. Because in every no to the world, there is a deeper yes. A yes to your soul. A yes to your rhythm. A yes to your life. Taking back your life is not a battle cry. It is not loud. It's not some triumphant leap into a new beginning. No, it's softer than that. It's sacred. It's slow. It's a kind of quiet rebellion you practice when no one is watching. It's the moment you stop chasing and start choosing. Not with grand gestures, but with small, deliberate acts of remembering. Saying no when your body whispers it, even if your mouth has been trained to say yes. Letting the message sit unread because your peace matters more than your pace. Taking a walk without filling the silence, because the silence might finally tell you something true. It's sitting across from yourself without judgment, without fixing, without performance. It's when you stop running from your own presence and begin to recognize it as home. And in that stillness, beneath the tension, the noise, the subtle ache of constantly reaching, you'll hear it. A rhythm, ancient, subtle, not made by you, but made for you. It's the rhythm you were born into before the world taught you to mistrust your own pulse, before your intuition got buried under opinions, before you traded being for proving. That rhythm was never gone, only drowned, like a melody playing beneath static, like a fire that never stopped burning, only waited for you to stop pouring water on it. But make no mistake, this return will feel like loss. You will grieve the noise, because the noise, as toxic as it was, kept you company. It gave you something to fix, something to chase, something to hide behind. And when it goes quiet, you'll feel naked, exposed, like standing in the center of your life without the armor you spent years crafting. Because underneath all of it, the pleasing, the proving, the productivity, was a single belief: I must earn my worth. But you don't. You never did. And that's the grief no one talks about. Letting go of the identity you built to survive, the mask that got you love, attention, maybe even success, but also stole your breath in the process. The truth is, you are not tired because you've done too much. You are tired because you've lived too far from yourself. This is not about taking your life back from the world. It's about taking it back from the version of you who thought she had to apologize for existing, from the self who shrank in rooms just to make others feel comfortable, from the self who measured value in how much could be carried, not how deeply one could feel. You are not here to entertain. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are not here to keep up. You are here to return, to truth, to breath, to your own sacred rhythm. You are not a machine. You are a soul with soft edges, with wild longings, with stillness stitched into your bones. And the soul does not shout. It waits. It waits for you to be still enough to hear it, still enough to remember you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Rumi. So stop reaching. Start remembering. Your life isn't something to earn back. It's something to rise into, fully, gently, and without apology. So let this be your turning point. Not tomorrow. Not when life finally calms down. Not when you feel ready or confident or perfectly prepared. Now this moment, not because it's convenient, but because it's real, because life isn't waiting, and neither is your soul. You've spent long enough rehearsing, trying to become someone worthy of the life you already long for. You've spent too many days waiting for the world to slow down, for the pain to go away, for the right words to come. But the world won't stop for your awakening. The storm won't pause while you figure it out. Life doesn't offer silence. It asks you to find it within the noise. And the only thing worse than falling behind is spending your life trying to catch up to a version of yourself that was never true to begin with. You don't need more time. You don't need more validation. You don't need more accomplishments, more clarity, or more certainty. What you need is truth. The kind of truth that lives beneath the noise. The kind that speaks in stillness. The kind that doesn't flatter your ego, but frees your soul. What you need is courage, not the loud kind that seeks attention, but the quiet kind that finally tells the truth in the mirror. The kind that leaves the conversation when your soul is shrinking. The kind that stops running, stops pleasing, stops trying to earn a seat at tables your spirit was never meant to sit at. Because you were never here to be everything for everyone. You were never here to hustle your way into wholeness. You were never here to constantly explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You were here to be, to breathe, to live from the center of your being, not from the edges of your performance. But the world doesn't teach that. It teaches you to keep going, to keep giving more of your attention, more of your energy, more of your soul. It tells you that you'll be enough someday. If you work harder, if you look better, if you move faster, and so you trade away your life in quiet, invisible ways, not in dramatic collapse, but in subtle erosion, in the small ways you say yes when you meant no, in the ways you apologize for your needs, for your boundaries, for your very existence. But something in you knows, something in you remembers, the child you once were, the one who danced without shame, who spoke without rehearsing, who looked at the sky as if it belonged to them. They're still in there. They've been waiting, beneath the roles and the rules and the routines, not waiting for the perfect plan, waiting for permission. So let this be it. Let this be your homecoming. The day you stop measuring your life by output and begin measuring it by alignment. The day you stop chasing peace and begin embodying it. The day you decide to live, not louder, not faster, but deeper. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You don't need to escape. You need to return. Return to what feels like breath. Return to what feeds your spirit. Return to your own sacred rhythm. The rhythm that doesn't move in straight lines or sharp turns, but flows like rivers and breath and seasons. A rhythm that honors slowness, that celebrates presence, that chooses depth over display. Because there is no trophy for burnout, no medal for martyrdom, no reward for abandoning yourself so others can be comfortable. What matters, what truly matters, is whether you lived from the inside out, whether your days reflected your values, whether your love reached the people it was meant for, whether you gave your time not to what was loudest, but to what was sacred. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Saying no will feel selfish. Slowing down will feel wrong. Stepping away from expectations will feel like failure because you've been trained to survive on approval, not alignment. But discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something real. And in that discomfort, a shift will begin, not outside, but within. You'll begin to remember what it feels like to choose, to say yes and mean it, to say no and trust it, to move not from pressure but from presence. You'll notice the world no longer pulls you in every direction. Because when you anchor yourself in truth, the waves don't drown you. They teach you how to breathe. So take back your time, not so you can do more, but so you can do what matters. Take back your courage, not so you can impress others, but so you can finally live aligned with your soul. Take back your life, not as a dramatic escape, but as a quiet return to what has always been yours. Because no one else will do it for you. No one else can hear the whispers, that were meant only for your ears. No one else can walk your path, speak your truth, or breathe your breath. The invitation has always been there, not in the future, not when everything is perfect, but now, in this moment, in this breath. Let it be enough. Let you be enough. Welcome home.